Anniversary, probably the most anticipated event in FGO in every single year. It gives out materials, summon tickets, and of course Saint Quartz. Like a lot of quartz. Suck it, Genshin! But for such a grand event as this one, there should be a servant fitting to be on the forefront. In the last 8 anniversaries, these servants were Da Vinci Caster, Sherlock Holmes, Scotty Caster, Da Vinci Rider, Artoria Caster, Koyanskaya of Light, Arcuid, and Morgan Caster or IS. For this video, I'm going to list some of my predictions to who the 9th anniversary servant may be. But first, I'd like to see what the criteria is to be an anniversary servant. Looking at the past 8 servants, they can be put into 2 categories pretty much. Servants that are important to the story and servants that will become important to the story in the future. In the former, we have Da Vinci, Holmes, Scotty, Koyanskaya, and Morgan. And in the latter, we have Artoria and Arcuid, with both coming out before they appeared in their own respective story chapters. Kinda. I'm looking at you, Arcuid. There's also a pattern that was broken by Arcuid in the 7th anniversary, and that is the alternating pattern of a caster than a different class that we saw from anniversary 1 to 6. And with the release of Morgan Caster last year, I think they're going to go back to that original pattern. With all of that out of the way, I'll be listing both, but mostly the former because we have some servants that are very integral to the story, but is not yet playable. The first one of these servants, of course, is this isn't really a surprise to anyone, but here is why I think it could be this year's anniversary servant. From the 7 singularities to Lost Belts to Ordeal Call, he has played a big part of the story. Of course, due to the events of the Solomon singularity, there are some complications with his summoning, but still there are still a version of him in the form of the Chaldean, so there is still a chance. Now for my reason why I would think he might not be this year's servant. Keywords are this year. I think it would fit in more to being the servant of the 10th anniversary rather than the 9th. It is a much more impactful number, like how they released Arcuid in the 7th anniversary, and we know how important the number 7 is to Fate, like 7 servants, 7 singularities, and 7 lost belts. But before then, Arcuid was one of, if not the most anticipated characters to come to FGO, being the face of Tsukihime and arguably the Nasuverse as a whole. So I think for something as big as a decade of FGO's existence, there should be a servant befitting that prestige as the raid-up servant, and I couldn't think of anyone other than Solomon himself. He will most likely be a caster too, which hinders the possibility of him being the anniversary servant this year, particularly because of the fact that they already released a caster last year. Moving on to another servant, and the servant that I think would be the one that will be coming out as this year's anniversary servant. Before anything, let me preface this with a spoiler warning for Lost Belt 7 and Ordeal Call, so look away. Much like Solomon, this isn't really a surprise with how the Lost Belts has already ended and her literally being playable in the story of Lost Belt 7. Like, come on. We all thought that last year Olga was coming out instead of Morgan, but here we are now. So the reason why I think this is the year that she finally comes out is, like Solomon, she has been a big part of the story as a whole, and technically, she is one of the 7 apostles which are all playable now. And with how she ended up being split into different shards after she sacrificed herself in Lost Belt 7, I think we have a Coin Sky situation at our hands with different versions of her possibly coming out. I don't really have a reason as to why she would not be the anniversary servant, but we all thought that last year and look how that turned out. Next is another servant from the Lost Belts. Well, from one beast to another. He has a big part in the story of Lost Belt 7, being a beast that tried to replace the main character as the last master. I mean, come on, that is more impactful than anything Morgan did in Lost Belt 6. But in my opinion, this isn't the year he comes out. I mean, in terms of importance to the story, Olga has him beat. He's a good second place to her though. I can see him coming out and everyone would be satisfied about it, but I don't think it would be as impactful compared to if Olga were to come out. That's all I can really say. Well, those are the main 3 that I would say are the main candidates for this year's anniversary servant, but there's another possibility, a future servant that has not played a role in the main story yet. First in my list is okay, technically, Shiki is kinda in Lost Belt 7, like how Arcuid is in Lost Belt 7. I'm not going to think about it too much, but there is a precedence for Shiki to become an anniversary servant, but I think it would ultimately be a collab character in a possible FGO slash Tsukihime collab, with Shield and Akiha as the 5-star and Shiki being a welfare probably. The reason for me thinking that is because they did a Mihotsukai no Yoru collab, which I predicted a year ago when the movie became announced, but damn, I didn't actually think they would go through with it. But with that, Tsukihime is the one and only one left from the Nasuverse's Big Four that has not collabed with FGO. But it isn't impossible for either of the two to become the read-up for the anniversary because of Arcuid. Like, what the fuck, Arcuid? Next one is a big one. Amaterasu is one of those servants that we're pretty sure that she will become part of the main storyline someday. With her being a beast candidate, it wouldn't be a surprise if in the near future she becomes a big part of the main storyline. With all the foreshadowing from the Tamamo characters and Koyanskaya, it wouldn't be out of place if she did become the anniversary servant as a character that will be part of the storyline in the future. Okay, there's the last one, but has almost zero chance to become the anniversary servant. But in my heart of hearts, I want her to be so bad. My god. This may be one of the longest of long shots, but hear me out. This pick is my to hell with logic, patterns, and what everyone else thinks. This is what I want. I know she is part of an event story, and I know she might never be a part of the main story, but god damn it. It is a criminal offense to not make Typhon summonable. All logic has been thrown out of the window, and now it's all just faith and pure unadulterated copium. It makes zero sense, and I won't be surprised if she isn't even on anyone's radar right now. So yeah, I said it here first. Typhon 2024 for the win. All in all, we will see next month who the anniversary servant is going to be. I, for one, I think it's going to be Olga, logically speaking. Like, it's a little bit overdue. Solomon, I think, would come out on the 10th anniversary. That would make the most sense to me, but we will see. But as someone who has 0 Saint Quartz on JP, I won't even get them, whoever the anniversary servant is.